Good morning and assalamu alaikum. It is 10 o'clock, 25th of August, and you're listening to me, Shemiza, on Inspire FM 105.1 FM. It's an absolute pleasure to be in your company, folks, especially because it's Bank Holiday Monday. I hope you've had a great weekend and having a restful start to your week. Do tell us what you're getting up to. We are in the studio live today, and we are going out to the wonderful people, Luton surrounding areas, Peterborough Salam Radio and Sheffield's Link FM. Now, I have a fabulous guest in the studio who you can actually see on Facebook Live. We are Facebook Live, folks, so do leave us a comment on our Facebook Live. My guest in the studio is waving to the camera. So, not a forced wave whatsoever.
Trying to see where the camera was.
Oh, bless. So he's on camera, he is live, and we are here. We're going to be in for a bit of a treat today, mashallah. Every Bank Holiday Monday, I always promise something special, and we have a live, not just a live interview, but a live performance as well with a celebrated poet, mashallah, an award-winning poet. And today's show is all about poetry has the power to inspire change, spark conversations, and ignite movements. And the theme for today's show is we are going to be talking about the power of verse, activism through poetry. And I'm joined by a absolutely delightful guest, a guest whose name you need to remember because, inshallah, he is going to be really, he's a trailblazer wordsmith. That's what I'm going to call him today. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about no other than Taher Adel. He's an award-winning British-Bahraini poet, novelist, and spoken word artist with a background in biomedical engineering and an MA in creative writing. Taher's work explores themes of identity, language, and cultural memory. His poetry collection, I Don't Know What Language I Dream In, was released in 2023, and his debut novel recently won the Tanner Baybars Award for Original Fiction. He's also served as a poet in residence, a prize judge, and a creative practitioner. Taher, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the show.
It's nice to be here. It's nice to have that pre-conversation as well, going over loads of artistic topics. It's very, very exciting to be here.
I'm super inspired by your bio and everything that you've achieved so far, mashallah. And but one thing that's made me super, super curious is like from science to poetry. How did that transition come about?
That's a question I get a lot. I've had a think recently. And I think it's born out of both satisfaction and dissatisfaction. I'll get into the dissatisfaction first. So, as you can imagine, teenager going through secondary school, you're in an English class and you're faced with this poetry anthology and you can't relate and you don't really like it. And I think a lot of us in the UK have gone through that process. And I was in that exact same predicament where I come from a background where Arabic speaking at home is a rich language. And I spoke to loads of people that speak Urdu at home, Persian at home. And you've got that kind of poetic culture where it's embedded in the kind of social fabric of not just the language, but everything you do is rich. And then all of a sudden you're faced with, I wouldn't call it an inferior language, but a language that you can't quite see the richness of at face value. And that's what I faced when I looked at the poetry anthology, and guided by the teacher, we're meant to engage with that poetry. And I couldn't even relate to the poet. So first thing that arose in my mind was, I don't like it. I don't want to do poetry. I don't want to write poetry. I don't want to critique this poetry. And that was the point of dissatisfaction. And then soon after, I think it was a week after, and my teacher, I can't even remember her name. I've started to forget names, which is a bad sign. But I did want to give her a shout out. But yes, she was the first teacher who said to mimic and imitate a poet as opposed to just critiquing and trying to understand where the poet's coming from. So she said, pick out a poet and flick through random poet, complete random page. And this was a poet from 500 years ago named Chidiot Tichborne. I can remember that name. And his poem was Tichborne's Elegy, a 500-year-old poem. And that was my first point of satisfaction. I saw the English language be able to engage and interrogate a universal topic, which I, as a child or teenager back then, couldn't quite see until then.
Or resonate with.
Yeah, I couldn't resonate with it at all. So, I'd see a poem about apples, about horses, and I was like, why are they discussing apples and horses? And all of a sudden, this poet from 500 years ago was discussing the fragility of life and death. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what poetry should be. And that was the moment that changed everything. That became my touchstone poem that I refer back to every now and then.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That light bulb moment, and and it hasn't switched off, mashallah. You're a published poet, and you do perform live events, spoken word events, and I had the pleasure of actually listening to you perform at an event in Luton, and I'm really quite surprised you have connections to Luton, because I'm like, who is this brother, this talented young man? Where has he come from? Why do we not know enough about him? So how have you come to Luton? Tell us that journey.
Took a long migratory journey from London to Luton, which is about half an hour, 45 minutes. But I needed to be closer to East Anglia, because I was not just taking a course there, but also working there. So that's how I ended up kind of migrating to Luton, and then I stayed. And then that's pretty much why I live here. I loved it. The only kind of critique I'd say, and probably get into it later, is the poetry scene needs to grow.
Indeed, I agree with that.
But yeah, that's how I got to Luton. I love the place. I love everything about it. And I'm glad I can be classed as a Luton citizen. I don't know, 6 years, 7 years. Don't know when you're
here now. You are here now. We have adopted you officially, and you are definitely going to be sparking this interest and passion for poetry, not just on my show, but also at an event, because you are going to be performing at an event which is called Poems for Palestine.
Yes.
And this is an evening of words, resistance and reflection. Tell us a little bit more about this event, where it's happening, and how you're getting involved in this.
So there's 2 events, right? So the first one, because I don't want to confuse myself, the first one is in the Baklava. Is it the company or the club, or the
Baklava company?
Company, yeah. I've never been to the venue, so forgive me if the venue host is listening in.
It is a new place.
It is a new place.
It's a new place.
Yeah. So I assume the setup is kind of 3 poets, each with their designated times, engaging with an audience about the theme of Palestine and poetic resistance when it comes to that. I have been drafted in as a reciter or performer, so I think the organizer would probably be best fit describing what they want to achieve out of it. But from a poet's perspective, what I want to achieve is engage the empathy levels of the audience. It's difficult. We've reached a fatigue level. It has been over 2 years, and poetry is a great means of tapping into that kind of emotion that perhaps has reached a level of tiredness or fatigue, and that's that is the essence of poetry, really. It's a universal language in itself. When people ask a question, what do you mean universal language? I've seen languages engage with poetry, but poetry is the middle ground between those languages, and when you take that essence, it's a language in itself. It's hard to describe, and it feels like I'm doing a mumble jumble here, but I've had the privilege of judging translatory poetry that's been translated from different languages, and what you often see is poetry can be translated more readily than what you get from a typical kind of text. And the reason for that is each poem has its essence. And that for me is a language in itself. And that essence carries emotions, carries heavy themes and concepts and notions that you can't really distill into words through text. And that's the beauty of poetry, really.
It sure is. And the question I want to ask you is, so which language do you enjoy performing in, and which is the language that you like to write more in?
Because I was brought up in England, I'd say I'm more comfortable in anything related to the English language. But in terms of if I was an audience member or listening or reading, Arabic is a rich language. But I discovered recently that Persian probably takes, top spot when it comes to poetry. And Urdu is up there. So I feel like there's three rich languages when it comes to poetic heritage, and you can't separate them because they're kind of interwoven and interconnected in various ways, not just on word root levels, but also on poetic heritage as well. But I love even with Urdu, I don't understand a word that's going on, but you can tell the poetic resonance, especially as a poet. You end up kind of indoctrinating or brainwashing yourself into patterns of words, and when you see it in other languages, you're like, hey, wait a second.
I suppose it's the pronunciation and the delivery, isn't it? So the question I wanted to ask, could you be kind enough to tell us the difference between a spoken word poet and poet?
Yeah. So what we normally designate is page poetry versus spoken word poetry. Obviously, there was a time thousands of years ago where oral poetry was just one singular form of poetry, and it was oral, passed down orally. But now we've got words on paper, page poetry, and that's become an art in itself, where you want to read with the voice in your head, and that's separate to the voice that comes out of your mouth. So spoken word poetry tends to be more raw. The patterns are more, as in the focus is on phonetics more than you would get on the wordplay or the structure or form on the page. So the forms are pretty separate. The structures from stanzas to words to everything else. So all the poetic devices you use with spoken word tend to be different. So you'd get more kind of refrains in spoken word similes, and less on the metaphor level. But even on the metaphor level, it's meant to be the go out in a bang, or create that confusion in the audience. It's more of a performance. It takes more because you're focusing not just on the words, but how they come out, how they're received. It's a different art form.
Does it require practice? And have you been trained to do this?
No. So I've always been more fascinated with page poetry, but how do you elevate and lift the page poetry to spoken word? That has always been my remit of saying, hey, I could perform a piece that I could also end up transitioning back to page poetry, should I wish, or vice versa. But there are people that are absolutely trained. So they go to open mics pretty much every week, and that is what they like to do.
And it's growing in popularity, isn't it? Open mics. And there is a real... I just find it kind of a modern take on poetry.
It is a modern take, but if you think about it, it's also the oldest take on poetry. Yeah, because back then, a poem would be, oral, from Homer all the way to the Arabic poets. Arabic poets, until, writing was a thing, they would memorize. In fact, everything was spontaneous. So what we find now is kind of premeditated, evolved, memorized poetry. There was a time where it was all spontaneous. In fact, if you repeated a poem, it's kind of old school. It's like watching a reel 20 years ago. And no, you had to say it had to be live. It was like Facebook Live, and we're on Facebook Live. So so if you could read a poem off the top of your head, that was a thing back then. So it kind of goes back the poetry world is a circle in the historic poetry world. It goes back to the same spot, and performance poetry or spoken word poetry is tapping into history more than we can imagine. Except academics don't like it because they can't critique it as much. They would like the texts and they but that's
so. Is it a bit of a rebellion going on if academics can't critique it?
It is a rebellion, and that was a topic when I was in the University of East Anglia. Is it real poetry? And that's comical because current poetry has evolved from oral poetry, so of course it's real poetry. In fact, it's more real. But I understand why, because on paper you could critique the skill of a poet. When it comes to performance, are you critiquing their charisma? Are you critiquing the way they articulate?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that you know supersede the words themselves, and oftentimes academics or critics, especially when it comes to poetry and literary, the literary world, is they want to see something tangible, and they want to, yeah.
And this level of tangibility, if there is such a word, has achieved you notable recognition, mashallah. So much so that your latest collection is proving to be very popular. Yes. And so I'm sure our listeners are intrigued to hear you perform a piece. So I know you're going to be sharing 2 pieces today, and I'm going to allow you to choose which one you want to. For folks listening in, you are tuned into the Urban Kube show. It is Bank Holiday Monday, folks, and we've got a great show for you today. I'm joined by no other than notable award-winning British-Bahraini poet, novelist, and spoken word artist Taher Adel, who is going to be entertaining us across the airwaves with 2 special readings exclusively on the Urban Kube this morning. Taher, share with us the first piece that you'd like to read for us.
Yeah, sure. So the first piece is from my latest collection, I Don't Know What Language I Dream In. I'll put it in front of the camera. Don't know how clear it is. So it's a short kind of chapbook collection that focuses on language identity and predominantly the mother tongue. And I will be reading the second poem of the collection, which is titled 12 Million. The letter Ha does not exist in any other language. It's pronounced as H, but imagine your lungs are struggling for breath. Is that why hub is the most common word for love? Because both leave you gasping for air. There are 12 million words in the Arabic language. Therefore, an Arab can tell you exactly how much he loves you in more ways than there are words in the entire French dictionary. But only one is seen as the language of love. So yeah, that's a controversial poem because the letter Ha does exist in other languages. It's just the pronunciation is different, so it gets a category in itself.
I find this piece so fascinating because you're actually educating your listeners about the Arabic language as well, and the impact that has on you culturally too. What was the response like to this piece?
So this is kind of a sequel to a similar piece that I'd probably read the first piece so we can grasp the explanation. So the title of the book comes from an original piece titled I Don't Know What Language I Dream In. So my mother speaks to me only in Arabic because you'll learn English in school. But when did I lose my mother tongue? Was it when I first visited my homeland and had to translate words back to English? Or was it when I saw my mum crying to a eulogy and felt nothing? If your mother tongue is no more, does that make your tongue an orphan? Is that why I don't know what language I dream in? Did you know Arabic has 11 words for love and over 100 words for camel, but no word for someone who has lost his mother tongue? So that is
that's beautiful.
So that is so that's why the collection is titled I Don't Know What Language I Dream In, and that second poem is kind of a sequel to the first. And the reaction to the first was I had written it just experimentally. It wasn't even a thing. And the reaction was, okay, but what are the 100 words for camel?
Right.
And that made me laugh. I was like, I've never
100 words for camel.
Because I was like, yes, I know there are 100 words for camel, but I've never explored the reason why. I don't even know the 100 words for camel. But then I thought it would be great to explore all these definitions in Arabic. And as I was exploring all these definitions, they became a collection in and of themselves. So each time I engage with the definition, it became a poetic verse. And that's a collection titled The Names, which is yet to be published, but has been published in the Arabic language. And that's kind of English poetry in conversation with Arabic words. And it just shows you the richness of one language. In English, it became poetry, where it's just a word in Arabic.
And it makes your work so much more important and special, because it is about heritage, it's archiving heritage, it's archiving language, and it's also paying homage to your mother tongue and your mother's heritage too. Did you ever plan to take your writing into this direction? Has it always been like, I'm going to become a poet and it's going to be about identity? I know we talked about your experience with the first poem, which you didn't like back in the day when you were at school. But did you ever imagine you'd get to this point?
No, that's both the exciting and frustrating thing about poetry, or any writing or any art, is that you end up stumbling across something great, I suppose, something that's exciting, something that you could be passionate about, and then with the same token, you're scared you'll get boxed in, because every artist is trying to run away from the thing they've just created. So I was in this box where I'm like, wow, I've engaged with the Arabic language here through an English poetry lens. I love this. What I started to do is engage with Arabic words. It became a collection titled The Names. Then I wrote the Divine Names, which is kind of an Islamic concept based on the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I engage with those names through English poetry. But then I wrote an identity collection, and it kind of all seeped in: language, identity, mother tongue. But then I thought, is that what I want to be, though? Is that what I want to explore? And the great thing about being a writer or any type of artist is that, no, you can tell yourself, that's what I did now. I want to do this, so and so. So I love that I'm kind of related to the whole identity bandwagon, but that was kind of more discovery, and I needed to discover myself. I needed to discover what my relationship was with my mother tongue, and knowing how I can for me, the reason I engage with the Arabic words is to strengthen my Arabic to begin with. So it was an exercise of
I like that.
So but it became a collection in the process. And the reason I engage with the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and became a divine names collection, and it became a coffee book table, is because I was trying to get closer to God. So I feel like every aspect of my writing serves a purpose for me. It's very selfish in that sense, but I would like to take people on the next part of my journey. And right now, where we are, and I think it's important to say, is lending our voices, our pens to those that can't, that don't have the capability of having their words amplified. And I feel like for the last 2-3 years, a lot of my work is focused on Palestine, and for a reason. And that's why we're engaging with these events, not just to raise money, but to also amplify voices. And what I found through poetry is that, because I've written for so long, has put me in a great position to help writers in Gaza at the moment, which has been one of the most rewarding things for me, even though it's such a small thing to give back. But seeing the writers there be able to not just write, but also know that somebody can look at their work, help amplify it, and use their experience to better it. And I think that's very rewarding. So shout out to We Are Not Numbers, who have this kind of mentorship, mentee program that partners writers and established professionals with writers in Gaza at the moment.
Thank you for sharing that information. And it's extremely poignant what you have said, allowing your pen to be the voice for those that are being silenced at the moment. And it's coming back to the event that you will be performing, Poems for Palestine, which is going to be on the 26th of August at the Baklava House. And you are performing alongside 2 other poets. And this event, I stumbled across it and I was so excited. I thought, this is absolutely brilliant. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got my tickets. I think it is free entry. I'll share the link after the break, folks. We are heading to a break. We are still with Taher. Adel, and he will be performing another piece for us. If you've got any questions, feel free to do so on 07779481822, and we'll be happy to answer them. He will be still on Facebook Live as well, so feel free to leave any comments, any questions you have about his poetic journey, and we will respond to those. And I apologize if you're hearing some sound effects, because I'm trying to remove this to mute my phone, but it's not happening. So I do apologize for that. And inshallah, we'll be joined with Taher straight after the break. And I'm really looking forward to his next piece. I mean, if you love the first piece, you're in for another treat. This man is definitely a word maestro. So join me straight after the break, folks, when we're having more conversations with Taher. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
इंस्पायर एफएम की वेबसाइट पर लुटन की तमाम मसाजिद के औकात नमाज मौजूद हैं। किसी भी मस्जिद के औकात जमात जानने के लिए इंस्पायर एफएम की वेबसाइट आपका बेहतरीन जरिया www.inspirefm.org।
Did you see that guy on TV?
What, that no comment guy?
Yeah, he was sick. What was his name?
I think it was Atiq Malik.
Yeah, Atiq Malik of Liberty Law Solicitors. Atiq Malik heads up the criminal law team at Liberty Law Solicitors, specialising in everything from serious crime down to road traffic offences.
To find out more or for a free telephone consultation, call 01582 459955.
Liberty Law, there when you need us most.
A large and elegant wedding and events venue in the heart of Luton, catering for up to 1,200 guests, with a 5-star food hygiene rating, plenty of parking, bridal suite, family rooms and prayer facilities. Crescent Hall's the perfect venue for your wedding, events, parties and conferences. We have some great offers for summer. Contact us to find out more. Call 01582 723386. Email bookings@crescenthall.co.uk or search for us online and social media. Crescent Hall, Luton. Conditions apply.
Calling all local businesses. Are you ready to recruit bright minds, retain dedicated talent, and empower your workforce? Look no further than the University of Bedfordshire. Invest in your company's future with our career-powered degree apprenticeships that offer tailored training and hands-on experience. Our good Ofsted rating and expertise make us your ultimate partner in building a skilled and motivated workforce. Plus, benefit from Sharia-compliant government funding. Visit beds.ac.uk/apprenticeships to learn more. Don't just imagine a brighter future for your business, create it with us.
Gaza's severely malnourished children are dying agonizingly slowly, while their parents in the same situation watch on helplessly. Hundreds have died and thousands are on the brink of death. Gaza needs your help more than ever before. Families Relief are on the ground, ready to receive your support. To help us continue delivering vital aid, call 0114 365 4454 to donate or visit us at familiesrelief.org.uk. Don't delay. Make your donation today.
From the heart of Bedfordshire in Luton on 105.1 FM. This is Inspire FM News.
Just because you've left your car, it doesn't mean you have to switch off. Keep listening to Inspire FM online or click on your smart TV. Either way, you can stay connected to Luton's best radio station all day and all night.
This is Inspire FM.
अगर आप अकाउंट्स या टैक्स की वजह से परेशान हैं तो घबराने की कोई बात नहीं। आज ही मुकम्मल राजदारी से हमारे साथ अपने तमाम मसाइल बुक कीपिंग, पेरोल, वीएटी, टैक्सी अकाउंट्स, लिमिटेड कंपनी बनाना वगैरह के लिए राब्ता कायम कीजिए। हमारे मशवरे और खिदमात से आपको खुशी और तसल्ली महसूस होगी। याद रखें, अब्दुल कयूम ऑफ ए कयूम अकाउंटेंट्स लिमिटेड, 4A वॉल्डेक रोड, लूटन। Telephone 01582 755252. Mobile 07961 188616. Email aq.accountants@hotmail.co.uk.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Catch Bedfordshire Creative Vibe on the Urban Kube with sister Shemiza.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and assalamu alaikum. It is 10:30. 25th of August, and you're listening to me, Shemiza, on Inspire FM 105.1 FM. We are beaming out to the wonderful people, Luton surrounding areas, and Peterborough's Salam Radio and Sheffield's Link FM. Huge salams wherever you're listening in from. Hopefully you're all having a great rest and enjoying the long bank holiday weekend. I think it's about just 2 more weeks left for the children to get back to school. And a lot of you have also had your children receiving their GCSE results as well. My daughter did, and alhamdulillah, it was really pleasing to see that her English teacher had sent her a little card and was so precious in her words of congratulations to her. And it kind of made me recall back, you know, one of the biggest influences in my life was my English teacher, believe it or not, when I did English literature at A-level many, many moons ago. And it's that compassion that they had in kind of motivating me to kind of continue with my dreams and vision. And so today I'm absolutely delighted to be in the presence of a notable individual who is doing exactly that and using words to inspire, engage, and using it as a means of activism as well. And they actually shared with their experience of the English language whilst they were at school and poetry, but it hasn't deterred them. It's made them grow. And it's such a pleasure to have them here in the studio this morning. You can actually catch them on Facebook Live as well. They are live in the studio today, and they performed a wonderful piece from their book, which is called their latest collection, and it's I Don't Know What Language I Dream In. What a great title. I want to ask you guys, what language do you think in if you're multilingual? You know, I always I listen into myself, like, what language do I dream in, think in? I don't know what language I dream in, because sometimes I forget what I dream. I don't know if you have that experience, people, but talking about dreams, you know, A-level results have been received. A lot of young people are going to be making their pathway to university, inshallah, in a couple of weeks' time. And on that note, I'm going to be introducing my guest, who is going to share with their pathway to academia. They did start with a degree in engineering and moved on to doing a master's in creative writing. So anything is possible. We can make changes and follow our hearts, you know, content later on in life as well. So without further ado, I think it's really important to introduce my guest today, who is going to be talking to us about the power of verse, activism through poetry. It is no other than Taher Adel, who is an award-winning British-Bahraini poet, novelist, spoken word artist. Assalamu alaikum, Taher. Apologies for the bit of a long intro.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
And, you know, you're perfect for this show today on Bank Holiday Monday, because there's going to be lots of young people making, you know, moving on to the next milestone of their lives. And share your experience of what, or I could ask you, what advice would you give to any young person that wants to take a pathway towards creativity, but might be pushed towards science?
Don't clip your wings. I think that is advice that I wish I had gotten at, you know, A-level time. We are often faced with two kind of avenues where we are naturally, I think naturally every human is creative. We love to create things. And that's part of childhood. We assume that we have to grow out of it. An artist eventually never grows out of that kind of curiosity, inquisitive nature. But then we're faced with career decisions, life, what's the best course of action? And then, like me, I wanted to look at the sciences. My parents certainly wanted me to look at the sciences. I took up medical engineering. I loved it and hated it at the same time. But then I realized I needed it to establish a career. Luckily for me, I had this epiphany just randomly as soon as I graduated in medical engineering and started working as a medical engineer. What if I looked at my creative passions that I've left dormant for a couple of years and take it seriously? And what if I do that alongside my job? And that's exactly what I tried to experiment with, and it was the best decision I've ever done, because I took up a part-time master's in creative writing. I didn't have an A level in English literature or anything English related, but that was the strongest university for creative writing in the UK, one of the strongest in the world. But all they require was a portfolio of poetry or creative writing. So as long as you're good enough, you'll get in, irrespective of. So there are loads of courses out there that still appreciate art for what it is, without prerequisites and entry requirements. So I thought I'd test the waters. Sent I think 15 poems, and they accepted me on the creative writing course, and that changed my life entirely. I was able to now balance my passion for words with a job that pays, and then it's now a nice predicament, because I could look at two avenues in my life and say I could keep balancing this, and that's nice as well, or I could say I could dive into creative writing and try to make a career out of it, or I could take a break whenever I want, and that's been a nice predicament, because and that's something that nobody told me is possible, that you could balance a bread and butter job, but also scratch that itch, or the creative itch, and then start to create things in your, artistic medium. So yeah, I would say if you are fond of words, whether it's writing novels or writing poetry, don't stop, because you don't know when you'll decide to take it a bit seriously, and then pursue it. And I've seen so many writers, novelists, end up become novelists about 50 or 60. They've had like full-on careers, and they'd be writing in the background, storing manuscripts and drafts, and then all of a sudden they're published, and they're world famous. So yeah, it's that balancing act where I think, especially with Asian cultures, Arabic culture, South Asian culture, where there is a focus on establishing yourself first in terms of career. And I think that needs to kind of mellow down, and also realize there's people with full-on artistic careers. So there's that. And there's also the balancing act. There's many ways of kind of engaging with art, and taking it seriously, and making it a professional part of your life, without affecting, your life, your career, and your stable part of your life.
So you heard it from the man himself. Science. He's got a degree in science, a successful career, but also he's mastering the science of words as well. So if he can do it, so can you. But it wasn't a straightforward process. You did do your research. You actually applied to one of the most notable creative writing institutes, an institute that's actually had a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, so I think they've had more than one, but the one I know is Kazuo Ishiguro, the famous novelist. So Nobel Prize laureates.
Amazing.
As part of, and that's, I think research is important sometimes. It's where do you put yourself if you want to learn from the best, kind of seek the best. And what that meant for me is taking a journey as a London boy to East Anglia, and then that kind of worked out in me living in Luton, and that could be, and Luton could be my forever place now. And as a result,
well, I hope so, because I think we need your artistic presence here, and your passion and conviction for words, which are so important. And this is what this show today is also about. It's acknowledging that power can be used as a form of resistance, and poetry has the power to kind of change minds and hearts. You spoke about a fatigue that we are facing as a society around the the sorrow of the Palestinians, the grave. I have to be very careful on how I say things without getting too emotional. We're witnessing what we're witnessing in front of our eyes, and the only means of resistance seems to be through words, through the artistry of words, a tapestry of words, and mashallah, which you're doing. And there are events across the town that you are going to be performing at. There is one event called, which will be at the Baklava House. Google the information, folks, and and see how you can access tickets to this event. So this will be happening on the 26th of August, but there's also an event at the Luton Library Theatre where you're going to be performing at as well. So not just one event, there's two events. So there's no reason to miss this. This is really exciting for me, especially as an artistic creative practitioner, to be actually seeing all these events popping up in my little old town of Luton, which is brilliant.
Well, it's testament to all the people that are active here that have said we need these spaces, not just to support the artists, but support causes. And I love how these two have meshed together. And sometimes we need that catalyst to engage with kind of the harder topics that we don't see. And that's always been, going back to my dissatisfaction of poetry, English poetry in particular, is that it didn't engage the topics that really matter. And I feel like with this, we are showing that we're not just going to bring an art form, we're going to make it into a resistance in itself. So I hope we could, utilize the vessel that is poetry to engage with the people.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And on that note, Taher,
yes.
I think it's only perfect to get you to perform another piece for us. So, folks, the time is 10:42. I'm joined by no other than Taher Adel. He's an award-winning British-Bahraini poet, novelist, spoken word artist. And today's topic is the power of verse, activism through poetry. And he is going to be performing another beautiful piece for us live on Inspire FM. Bismillah.
Bismillah. So this is what we refer to as a page poem. So it's not been transitioned into a spoken word poem, but there is a nice element to it which can be performed. One day when this is all a distant nightmare, I'd like to look back and pore over the names that were left unspoken, the stories that remained untold. One day when the smiles begin to return and the reunions are whole, I'd like to write for those I forgot to name. Even if they remain unknown, I'd like for my words to be their flowers, because memories are a burial ground and not everyone visits a memory. Not everyone has a grave. One day when this is all over, I'd like us to recall the time when politics had no shame, when the dying had no voice and ours was strangled for speaking. Even our words were not enough to unstring the sentences wrapped around their necks. One day when this is all over, I'd like us to begin again. I'd like us to plant seeds where Palestinian poets once left their verses. I'd like us to fly the kites for the children lost to the skies, to weave their names into the future, an eternal sacrifice, until they and the olive tree rise again from the earth and from the hearts of men. So yeah, that's a poem that was originally written as a page poem. But it taps into kind of wishes and imaginations of what we'd like to be the resolution, but we don't even know what the resolution is at this point in time. It's some anxious moment.
Another beautifully written piece, so poignant and so very significant. And the mention of olive trees is always a beautiful reminder of a land And may it, inshallah, flourish again
Mm.
with the beauty of these trees. The olive trees are mentioned in a title of your piece. Is it another book that you've written? Or
So it's a short story that was longlisted for the Yetzer Writing Prize, but it was a piece that I originally shared on Instagram. It was just a short story. It was my kind of experimentation into prose, and that was difficult for me because I like to write in metered poetry, and all of a sudden I wanted to explore prose and that's, I think, the interesting junction that I was talking about, where I've kind of lent my words, I like to call it lending my pen to the cause of Palestine, is that in that journey I've accidentally transitioned into prose because I felt like poetry couldn't possibly encapsulate all the pain or the anguish that I was trying to kind of bottle in, and I felt like I needed more words, so I started to explore short stories at first, and that was kind of one of the examples, not the poem, but what you're referring to, the short story, and people can find that on Instagram. But then I started also writing a full-length novel about Palestine, and I feel like inadvertently that's kind of God's way of giving back to somebody that has, generously lended his talent or craft. And then I learned something new in the process. And I feel like that's a lesson for me, first and foremost. And it's a lesson probably for everybody else, is that when you kind of go in with the intention to just serve, and then all of a sudden in that process, you're learning something new. And in my case, it was a whole new craft where I had never engaged in. Despite doing a creative writing degree, I was ignoring every prose and fiction aspect of it. And it was just poetry that I wanted to focus on because that's what I wanted to improve. And then all of a sudden, I'm now writing fiction and I'm finding a home in prose. And I feel like that could also be a powerful medium for me to use moving forward. And I'll be interested to see where that takes me. I think that uncertainty and kind of spontaneous nature of writing is exciting.
You're constantly evolving, aren't you? And that's the beauty of being a creative. Do you think having a degree in creative writing has benefited you? Could you comment, if this was innate in you, do you think you could have done it without a creative writing degree?
Certainly could. I think most poets, and this is both kind of a positive thing and a negative thing, most poets can create, careers for themselves without the need to engage with a master's or a degree or a bachelor's or a course or anything like that. But then you realize there's an element that most of us are missing, especially those that have more than one language, is that we assume that craft is natural, but craft isn't natural. And that's the misconception that I kind of made, is that there's a whole English theory to poetry. In fact, one of the first things when I'd done my master's was this massive book that was given to me, and it was a theory, poetry theory, literally poetry theory, which was about this thick. And then that's when you realize that everything is craft related. And in order for you to break out of craft, which most of us do at the very beginning, you also have to understand craft, and you also have to master the language that you're writing in. I think I've come across a lot of poets that have this kind of, Arabic Urdu heritage that they try to bring into the poetry, which is innovation itself. But it's difficult to innovate when you don't know what you're breaking yet. So it works both ways, and I've seen it, but I feel like the most effective people that I've seen perform this are those that actually know what they're breaking before they break it. So I would advise, at the very least, doesn't need a course, understanding form, structure of what English poetry is.
The semantics of it all.
English is the great thing about English is that it's probably the most malleable, moldable language. So you could actually bring, influences from outside and start creating change that is actual change because of how malleable of a language that is. Shakespeare himself, invented 500, innovated with 500 words that we see in our...
we use them all the time.
And then, but imagine at that time, they're like, why do we need 500 extra words?
Yes.
But he knew how to introduce as well. So he didn't just willy-nilly just introduce them. He knew how to break that cycle, where to introduce these words, find the gaps. And so, in terms of, institutions that are educational when it comes to poetry, creative writing, it's useful. The networking is incredible, and we're discussing this before the show. It's once you're in an institute like that, you're kind of not let go. You're part of their furniture.
So you're talking about East Anglia.
Yeah, University of East Anglia, where you've engaged with them, and therefore now moving forward, if there's something that fits what you're doing, they will give you a call. Or if there's a program that they think that you should apply for, they'll give you a call. If there's an event that they believe your voice would resonate with, they'd give you a call. So that's healthy. I think any institution should have that element with the people that graduate from their courses. And
because even Bedfordshire University, you're a creative practitioner there on a program around poetry. Tell us more.
So there's a lot of work with the I don't know if many people know about the elevator program, but it takes creatives, gives them pretty much a role where they can engage with the community, with the university in tandem, create little projects that engage with the community. Mine was focused on poetry, and a lot of it was to introduce I don't know what language I dream in workshop with local schools. So there might be a few people out there that have seen me, have been part of these workshops, and it engages with the whole idea that we have rich heritages, and we could use the poetry that we've heard subconsciously, consciously learn how to translate them, learn the power of English language and our mother tongues, and where these two could be interconnected, and surprise them about poetry. So there's a lot of that workshop is just about poetry, but also about the concept of a mother tongue as well.
And it sounds absolutely awesome. And there's always this discussion about our children not being able to speak our mother tongue. And that's why I want to ask you, do your children speak Arabic? Are they fluent?
Not fluent. Same issue as myself. And I feel like I was hoping to kind of break that cycle. But what you find is once they're in school, their English takes over
completely,
no matter what. So I don't think there's a way around. The only way around it is to speak as much of, in our case, Arabic at home, because that always filters through subconsciously, and it happened to me growing up. But there also reaches a point in my teens where I didn't know what language I dream in. And that's literally what my collection is based on, is because I had a dream, and I remember the conversation. I remember that I had this very vivid conversation with somebody in my dream. But then I was like, what language was I speaking? Because certainly they did, this person in my dream definitely doesn't speak English. So was it Arabic? But then I can't converse in Arabic to that level with this person. So the dream didn't make sense. And that made me question a lot of things. And then eventually became a poet.
It's amazing where ideas come from, and no idea is ludicrous or silly. It's just a seed waiting to be planted. I just dream in gibberish. That's all I can say. I want to ask you, do you have a favorite word? Is there a favorite word that you have?
Is there a favorite word? No, which is really strange as a poet. My favorite word is vessel is my favorite word. I use it a lot. As in, anything is a vessel for something. So poetry is a vessel for emotions, and I feel like we're a vessel for something else, or the soul, as in we're a vessel for the soul, we're a vessel for this. And I feel like everything is a vessel for something. So that's why it's my favorite word. It's such a random word, but now that you mentioned the favorite word, I think that might be my favorite word.
Could be holding on to a new
because I use it a lot.
We need to know about your social media handles. I'm sure everybody wants to know how they can contact you, because we've got about a minute left of the show now.
Words by Taher. So that's words by my first name. I don't know why that's my social media handle, but it's my social media handle everywhere. So it's not my full name, it's just words by Taher. My website is taheradel.com, which is first name, second name, .com, and you can find out more about me, perhaps purchase a collection. There's a few collections there, they're all very different, and then hopefully one day I could publish my novel, and hopefully we'll be on there. So yeah.
Fabulous. We didn't get a chance to talk about your novel, but I'm sure it's not going to be the final conversation I'm having with you. I do hope you'll be joining us. Any plans for the Bank Holiday Monday? We've got about 42 seconds.
Rest, chai wala after this and the rest.
We're not promoting them, but yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Hopefully that's a good lift me and not one that I've had a headache coming on the show. But it's an absolute pleasure, Taher. Thank you so much for joining us today. The event that you're going to be performing at is on the 26th of August at the Baklava House. It's a poetry event for Palestine, inshallah. May you continue to do the great work that you do, and thank you for using your tool of poetry as a means of activism. It is the end of the show, folks. Thank you for joining me. Have a great bank holiday and catch me same time, same place next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.